And what is a stem cell and why stem cells are so important to us as human beings?
Sure thing. So first of all, there are many different types of stem cells. There are omnipotent and totipotent stem cells, pluripotent stem cells, multipotent stem cells. And these just represent different levels of cell differentiation. So we start off with these universal stem cells, and then they will begin to divide and differentiate. And so the gene expression in those stem cells changes. And the more that they divide and differentiate, they become different types of groups of cells. And then eventually they will become, let's say, a liver cell or a kidney cell or muscle cell or what have you. So all of us have these stem cells, and every cell in our bodies was once a stem cell. And this is where the power lays, because you can imagine, let's take a very extreme case where somebody loses a limb, right? This would be really tragic. But what if we could cultivate and grow these stem cells and then apply them to the injury site, and they could differentiate and divide in a controlled manner? We could regrow that person's lost limb. There would be no need for a robotic limb. So these technologies are kind of converging today, but eventually, what we're going to see is what you see in some science fiction movies where people completely regenerate lost limbs and lost body parts. And some of that is not science fiction anymore. Some of it is already being done today. And so it's definitely in our future.
Wow. So I would say that stem cells are pretty important. They're the foundation of everything in our whole body, right? They're
absolutely.
Pretty important. Well, a question that I've been asked a few times now about stem cells is, do we have like a set amount of stem cells in our body when we're born? And does our body make more stem cells? What happens to stem cells as we age? Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Well, this is an interesting question because stem cells are subjected to the aging process just like every other cell in the body. And the number of stem cells is limited by what's called the Hayflick limit. So in other words, cells have telomeres, which are rods that are attached to chromosomes. And as cells divide, the telomeres shorten. And once the telomeres are gone, then you don't have any new cells. So this happens with stem cells. The quality of the stem cell degrades with age under normal, quote unquote, normal circumstances. And the number of stem cells that are available to us also declines with age until eventually we don't have any more stem cells. Now, what's interesting about this is that there are ways to circumvent that process, and that's some of the work that we do. So in other words, if you can find a way to lengthen the telomeres, which we have, and we've done it in a controlled fashion, you can make the cells younger, and you can also extend the number of times they divide, meaning that we can, with this tech, increase the number of total stem cells over a person's life, and those stem cells will be younger in the process. So that means we can extend lifespan, and we can extend how long people stay younger. The other, there's a number of other different approaches with stem cells, and one of them is what are known as Yamanaka factors, meaning that if you apply, Yamanaka was a researcher in Japan, and if you apply a Yamanaka factor, which is a signaling molecule, to the stem cells in the skin, you can revert them into pluripotent stem cells. And the reason I bring this up is because we see this with copper peptide, GHKCU. Copper peptide functions as a Yamanaka factor, and that means there are more stem cells available for healing tissue within the body. So, in effect, why that's important is that if we're not making medical claims, but if people were suffering from, let's say, long-term chronic injuries, they can potentially heal those injuries by increasing the number of circulating stem cells. One other way to do it is by using a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, but that takes a long time. It's a lot of people don't like it, and it's relatively expensive, but it's a great technology.